Hello and welcome to the English Listening Podcast. I'm Julia, and I'm so happy you're joining me today. This episode is all about something I'm really passionate about: how to become more confident and natural when speaking English. If you're like most English learners, you might find that you understand the language perfectly when reading or listening, but then completely freeze up when it's your turn to speak. Don't worry, this is completely normal, and today I'm going to share some practical, everyday strategies to help you bridge that gap and speak more fluently and confidently. Let's dive right in with my first tip, something I call the daily 5-minute mirror practice. This is incredibly simple but amazingly effective. Every morning, spend just 5 minutes talking to yourself in the mirror in English. You can talk about anything: your plans for the day, something you watched yesterday, or even just describe what you're wearing or how you're feeling. What's wonderful about this practice is that there's absolutely no pressure. There's no audience, no one to impress, no one to judge your mistakes. It's your own safe space to experiment with the language. When you do this consistently, something magical happens. Your brain starts to form those neural pathways needed for speaking English without having to translate everything first. And that's the real goal, isn't it? To get to a point where you're thinking in English, not constantly translating from your native language. Let me give you an example of what this might sound like. Imagine standing in front of your mirror and saying, "Good morning. Today, I'm wearing my favorite blue sweater. I have 3 meetings at work and I'm a bit nervous about the presentation I need to give. But I prepared well yesterday, so I think it will go fine. After work, I'm planning to meet my friend for coffee. The weather looks nice today. Maybe we'll sit outside." What's wonderful about this practice is that there's absolutely no pressure. There's no audience, no one to impress, no one to judge your mistakes. It's your own safe space to experiment with the language. When you do this consistently, something magical happens. Your brain starts to form those neural pathways needed for speaking English without having to translate everything first. And that's the real goal, isn't it? To get to a point where you're thinking in English, not constantly translating from your native language. Let me give you an example of what this might sound like. Imagine standing in front of your mirror and saying, "Good morning. Today I'm wearing my favorite blue sweater. I have 3 meetings at work and I'm a bit nervous about the presentation I need to give. But I prepared well yesterday, so I think it will go fine. After work, I'm planning to meet my friend for coffee. The weather looks nice today. Maybe we'll sit outside." What I find particularly effective is background listening. When you're cleaning, cooking, or commuting, have English podcasts, audiobooks, or even just music with English lyrics playing in the background. Your brain is amazing at absorbing language even when you're not actively focusing on it. This passive exposure helps you develop a feel for the natural rhythm and patterns of English. And it doesn't have to be educational content either. Choose shows, podcasts, or videos that you genuinely enjoy. The key is consistent exposure. Speaking of consistency, that brings me to my third tip: the conversation commitment. This one is simple but powerful. Commit to having at least one conversation in English every week, no matter how short. This doesn't mean you need to find native English speakers. You can practice with other learners, join language exchange groups online, or even hire a tutor for just 30 minutes a week if that's within your budget. The important thing is having that regular practice with another person. There's something about real-time conversation that pushes your brain to process language differently than when you're just listening or reading. And please remember, don't aim for perfection in these conversations. The goal is communication, not flawless grammar. So many learners get stuck in what I call the perfection trap. They're so afraid of making mistakes that they end up saying very little or nothing at all. Even native speakers make grammar mistakes, use filler words, and sometimes struggle to find the right expression. It's completely normal. Focus on getting your message across and building confidence. The polishing can come later. If you're feeling a bit shy about speaking with others, here's some advice on how to get started. Begin with structured exchanges where the expectations are clear. Language exchange apps like Tandem or HelloTalk are great because both people understand you're there to learn. You can start with text chats if speaking feels too intimidating at first, then gradually move to voice messages, and finally to video calls. Another approach is to join online communities focused on topics you're genuinely interested in. Maybe a book club, a gaming group, or a cooking forum that happens to be in English. The focus there is on the shared interest, which takes some pressure off your language skills. And when the conversation is about something you're passionate about, you'll naturally be more motivated to express yourself clearly. Let's move on to my fourth tip, which I think is often overlooked: the power of targeted listening. This is a technique that helped me tremendously when I was improving my own language skills. The concept is to listen with a specific purpose rather than just passive exposure. It's about training your ear to catch specific elements of the language. For instance, you might listen to a short clip or podcast segment and focus only on the question forms, or only on past tense verbs, or only on natural transitions between topics. This targeted approach helps you notice patterns that you might miss during general listening. The beautiful thing is that it doesn't require any special materials. You can use the same content you enjoy anyway, but listen to it multiple times with different focus areas. Let me walk you through an example of how you might practice this. Let's say you choose a 3-minute scene from your favorite English TV show. The first time, just watch it normally and enjoy. The second time, focus specifically on the questions asked by the characters, how they're formed, the intonation, the word order. For the third time, you could focus on the responses. How do people answer those questions? Do they use complete sentences or short phrases? Then perhaps for the fourth time, you might pay attention to the connecting words. How do people transition between ideas using words like however, although, meanwhile, etc.? This kind of focused listening trains your brain to process English more efficiently, which directly improves your speaking abilities. And it only takes a few minutes a day, but the results can be remarkable. My fifth and final tip for today is what I like to call the vocabulary upgrade system. I love this approach because it's about quality over quantity when it comes to learning new words. Instead of trying to memorize long lists of vocabulary, this system focuses on gradually upgrading the words you already use regularly. The basic idea is to identify words or phrases you use frequently in conversations, and then learn slightly more sophisticated or precise alternatives. For example, if you often say something is good, you might learn to sometimes use excellent, outstanding, remarkable, or exceptional instead. The key is to start using these upgraded words immediately in your mirror practice or conversations, not just memorize them. I find it helpful to choose just 1 or 2 upgrade words per week and focus on incorporating those until they become natural. It's much more effective than trying to learn 50 new words at once and then forgetting most of them. An added benefit of this system is that it helps you develop a more nuanced understanding of word connotations and appropriate contexts. It's not just about knowing more words, it's about understanding the subtle differences between similar words and when to use each one. Let me share a few examples of these word upgrades that you might find useful. Instead of always saying, I think, you could sometimes use I believe, I consider, or in my opinion. Instead of very good, try exceptional or outstanding. Rather than I like, you could use I appreciate or I'm fond of. Even just these few substitutions can make your English sound much more natural and sophisticated. Now, let me emphasize something really important. Consistent practice is far more important than lengthy study sessions. 5 minutes of daily practice will yield better results than a 3-hour cramming session once a week. And please, be kind to yourself throughout this process. Learning a language is a journey, not a race. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small it might seem. Every conversation, every new word, every minute of practice is bringing you closer to fluency. Most importantly, try to enjoy the process. Find ways to make English practice something you look forward to rather than a chore you dread. Connect it to activities and topics you're passionate about. Make it personal. Make it fun. Remember, language is ultimately about connection. Connecting with others, with ideas, with different cultures and perspectives. When you focus on these connections rather than on perfect grammar or pronunciation, the language learning process becomes much more rewarding. I hope these tips help you on your English journey. In our next episode, I'll share some specific exercises to help you improve your pronunciation and sound more natural when speaking English. Until then, I encourage you to try at least one of the strategies we discussed today. Start with the one that seems most appealing or accessible to you. Even small steps can lead to significant progress over time. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with friends who are also learning English. Remember, we're all in this journey together. Take care, and I'll talk to you again soon.